The air inside this building is thick enough to stick to your teeth. Damp, slow, heavy. I've wiped down the same section of counter 3 times this morning, and each time the rag comes back with more grit. I stopped trying to dry my coffee cup after the second pour. Nothing stays dry anymore. I'm Mark Hendricks, broadcasting out of what used to be a public station in Tillamook County, Oregon. Now just a small room on a higher part of the foundation, with power running off a diesel generator that we bartered for when the Port of Garibaldi pulled their boats and locked the gates. The generator is loud and short-winded, and I only run it when I have to. Right now, I have to. It has rained for 30 days, not off and on, not passing showers, just constant steady water from the sky. Some hours it comes down hard enough to drum on the walls. Other times it barely whispers, but it never quits. The gutters gave up weeks ago. Now the roof spills straight from the edge in a clean sheet like you see on rooftops during construction. I've got the side door cracked to keep the air from turning stagnant in here, and you can hear it through the mic. That isn't background noise. That's just the world now. This used to be a station with 10 people on shift, a live music calendar, and a proper lobby. Now it's me. I've hung a clothesline between 2 mic stands, and my socks are drying there. The computers are raised on plastic crates to keep them off the floor. The carpet's already gone moldy in the hallway. We rolled it up and dumped it behind the building when the first crest pushed through the rear exit. If this is your first time hearing me, welcome to whatever this is. I won't call it a show. It's more like a checkpoint, a running log of what's happening out here along the coast and just beyond the hills. If you've been with me from the start, I'm still here. Thank you for staying close. I'll take your company in any form. No music today. Just updates, field notes, stories from the boats, names and places that matter, and the sound of rain that has not once, not for a single hour, let us forget it's there. Let's get into it. Next, we'll move into the meteorological situation with Dr. Mara Kincaid from the Extension Office in Newport. She's been tracking the source of all this, the same stalled pattern over the Pacific that keeps locking us in. Her landline's unstable, but we've got a clean connection this morning, and I'll bring her in before the line drops. Then we'll move through the floodplain updates, the road closures, and the real backbone of this broadcast, messages from people like you. Everything you're about to hear is real. No theory, no rehearsal, no second takes, just what's been happening outside while the rest of the map slowly disappears underwater. I want to start with the science while my friend is still able to join us. The first time she came on, the roads were open and we both thought we were describing a hard week. Now it is a hard month. This is Dr. Mara Kincaid, a meteorologist with the Oregon State University Extension in Newport. She is on a landline that runs over a copper pair the telecom crew spliced by hand yesterday after a mudslide near Toledo snapped the newer line. If the phone hums, that is groundwater touching joints that never planned to be underwater. Mara, thank you for holding on. Mara says the simple picture is this. A blocking pattern has parked a high-pressure ridge near the Gulf of Alaska. It is not a typical ridge that clears us out. This one is slanted in a way that keeps a conveyor of moisture pointed straight at the Pacific Northwest. She calls these events atmospheric rivers. That means long bands of deep moisture lifted out of the tropics and aimed at us by the shape of the jet stream. Usually we get one, it hits for a day or two and moves on. This time the pattern is locked. The river keeps reforming and sliding across the same corridor, off the ocean, into the Coast Range, across the Willamette Valley, then into the Cascades, then rebounding with cold air on the east side. The sea surface temperature anomalies in the West Pacific are adding fuel, and the wind field is holding the fire hose steady. Her words, steady. She says integrated vapor transport values have been at the high end of what she has seen recorded in winter events, and we are not in winter. Soil is saturated. Groundwater is high. Rivers cannot drop between pulses. Every new band makes new damage on ground that has no strength left. She does not give forecasts beyond 2 days because the model spread is poor with the ridge in place, but she says there is no sign of a clean break in the next 48 hours. That is as honest as it gets. Thank you, Mara. Stay safe. If you lose that line, we will try again later using the shortwave relay through Corvallis. Let me anchor us on the map. Tillamook Bay is full. The Trask, Wilson, Kilchis, and Tillamook rivers are out of their banks in multiple sections. Low pastures along Wilson River Loop Road have turned into flat water. The herd from the Vaughn place made it to the low ridge west of the loop earlier this week. The Vaughns left a note on my front door 2 nights ago saying one calf needed antibiotics, and they had none. If anyone has a veterinary supply in a dry spot, leave me a message with a name and where a runner can pick it up. Keep it simple. One name, one road name. A landmark that is not underwater. We will read it aloud and get it into the hands that need it. North of here, Nehalem is split by high water. Wheeler and Rockaway have water in basements and storage units. Highway 101 has closures south of Garibaldi and north near the Neskowin River. The Oregon Department of Transportation crews, spelled all the way out because acronyms start to feel cold, are rotating in buckets whenever it is safe. But a lot of the work is hand clearing because heavy equipment sinks. Highway 6 over the Wilson River corridor is closed at multiple slides. There is a major slope failure at a viewpoint turnout that took the downhill lane and part of the shoulder. On the east side of the Coast Range, the water coming off the top is cutting new channels through clear cuts and snapping culverts. That means debris in the streams, which means logs in the rivers, which means new jams popping up in places that have not jammed in years. If you are on the water, assume the river is lying to you. Something new could be around every bend. People have been asking about Portland and the valley because family is there and because the supplies for the coast come out of those hubs. Portland proper has localized flooding on Johnson Creek, Fano Creek, and parts of the Tualatin. The Columbia River is high, but holding because the Army Corps of Engineers is managing dam releases upstream. That said, there are reports of minor landslides along the Columbia River Gorge, and Interstate 84 has intermittent closures for rockfall removal near Multnomah Falls and again near Shell Rock. Salem and Albany are dealing with high water on the Willamette and Santiam. The wastewater plants are overloaded. Boil water notices are up in several small systems that draw from shallow wells. I will read instructions again later for treating water when you do not trust the tap. Eugene is soggy, but still pushing supply north by rail when the track is clear. When the track is not clear, nothing moves. That brings me to the problem that is hurting everyone. The trucks have stopped coming. When the first week of rain hit, we saw delays. Week 2, lanes closed. In week 3, the major trucking firms pulled back because their drivers were timing out on hours and getting stranded in slide zones. Last week, the big warehouse in Hillsboro that was staging food for the North Coast closed its loading docks and sent its drivers home. The manager, a man named Luis Moreno, who used to call in every morning for a status check, left me a message 2 days ago. He said, "I cannot promise another pallet." That is not a knock on him. He is a good man in a bad storm. The result is shelves are emptying. Here in Tillamook, the big grocery stores have long aisles of nothing and a cluster of canned goods people skipped because nobody wants to invent a recipe from stewed beets and pumpkin pie filling. The smaller markets are keeping doors open with awkward hours and cash only because payment systems hate backup power. The feed store is closed. The pharmacy is open, but only for the prescriptions already on hand. So we are leaning hard on neighbors, volunteer kitchens, church basements, and anything that floats. I want to read some of the messages that came in last night. These arrived 3 ways. A handful were hand-delivered in a dry freezer bag by people in hip waders. A few came by kayak from the Garibaldi Marina, and a larger batch came through the shortwave relay network. That simply means a chain of ham operators passed the words along, one to the next, until they reached a working printer in Corvallis, and a pickup drove them out before another slide closed that route. When you hear me use a name, it is because the person told me I could. If the message is unsigned, it is because the sender asked me to keep it private. From Molly Jensen on Chance Road near the Kilchis. We moved the herd to the hill. The bales are wet, and the hay is molding. If anyone has square bales in a loft and a way to move them by boat, we can trade milk and eggs and 2 chainsaw blades, still in the package. Also need amoxicillin for a calf. We can meet at the base of the water tower off Alderbrook when the water drops a foot. We are okay for 2 days, then we are not okay. From Patrick and Otis above the Salmon River. Slide took the driveway. We built a raft out of pallets and blue barrels and pulled it by rope to the county road. Road is gone in 2 places. We have a small generator with 6 gallons of gas and can share charge time if anyone has a medical device. We have coffee we can share too. We need diesel for our neighbor's tractor. We can siphon. Please do not come alone. Bring 2 people. There are loose dogs and a black bear in the area. The bear is not a problem if you give it space. From the Siletz tribal community health worker and logs delivered by kayak. We are sheltering elders at the community center. We have wood heat and food. What we lack is insulin, syringes, and test strips. We have a working VHF handheld for fire, but we cannot reach the county dispatch. If any clinic has supplies and a dry route, please send them. If you cannot, send a message with where they are, and we will send a team with a canoe when the river slows. We can trade salmon and blankets. Signed, Julie. From a fishing guide in Waldport. I have a 20-foot aluminum boat. I have run it in Alsea Bay for years. I can take people off porches during high water. I will not take anyone beyond the bar. And I will not run at night because that is plain stupid right now. Message for a pickup is a yellow piece of tape on the mailbox and 3 short whistle blasts when I am near. I will answer with 2 blasts. I can take small dogs. I cannot take goats unless they are frozen in place. And then we will make a judgment call. Thank you to all of you who sent these. The list is long. I will keep reading them through the hour. I know some of you are yelling at me to get to your neighborhood. I will get there. We are one voice now where 10 used to trade off. That is true here, and it sounds true at the other stations too. Forgive me for the word station. I know you asked me not to say radio words, old habits. This building used to be full. 10 people on a busy day, 2 of us at night. It is me alone now. It is not for lack of heart. Everyone who worked here did what you would do. They went home when their kids needed them or when their road washed out, or when the water line blew, and they were the only one who knew where the shutoff was. One of us, Jamie, left last week to check on her grandmother in Bay City. I have not heard from her since. That does not mean the worst. It just means silence. And we are getting used to silence. For those of you asking about law enforcement and rescue, here is what I'm hearing. The county sheriff's office is operating from a temporary setup on a hill near the Justice Center because the parking lot there is a lake. Deputies are pairing with volunteer firefighters to run high water calls. They are running them in borrowed drift boats and in a flat-bottom aluminum boat one of the deputies used for duck hunting. Everyone is wearing personal flotation devices. If you see someone working a rescue and they are not wearing one, yell at them until they do. The Coast Guard has flown when the ceiling lifts and the winds allow it. If you hear a rotor, make yourself visible but do not wave both arms overhead unless it is life or death. 2 arms straight up is a standard distress signal. 1 arm moving side to side at shoulder height says you do not need help. There are drones in the air from search and rescue teams. Those are being used to scout slides, not to peek into yards. If you see one, that is what it is doing. On the question that keeps coming up, has the state said anything new? Nehalem put out daily briefings through the Oregon Office of Emergency Management during the first 2 weeks. Those tapered to written bulletins by week 3. I have not heard a new bulletin in 3 days. The governor made a recorded statement last week calling for patience and mutual aid across counties. I'm told by a friend in the state capitol press pool that their backup site lost power and then lost the generator when floodwater climbed above the fuel tank vents. In plain language, they are not ignoring us. They are underwater and out of gas. The federal voices faded a week ago. You can read into that or you can save your breath. The people in front of you are the ones who can help you. The new voice with real weight is local districts and county emergency coordinators. A few are still making nightly calls that the shortwave volunteers pass along. Most of those are raw lists of which roads still exist and which buildings are dry. So the national arc of this story went quiet. The regional arc snapped. The local arc is loud and clear. I keep being asked about gear. It is a human question. What should I have? What should I buy? Buying is hard now. So the realistic question is, what should I borrow or adapt? Here is what works in this rain. Rubber boots that climb to your knees and real wool socks. A headlamp that runs on AA batteries because those are still tradable. A hand pump for fuel so you are not breathing through a hose and getting sick. A small tarp, not to camp, but to keep mud off the equipment you set down while you work. Work gloves that you do not mind ruining. If you need to clear a clogged culvert, bring a metal rake and a second person. Tie a rope around your waist and tie the other end to a tree or truck and keep that rope above the water line because a rope can snag under a log and pull you under. If you are carrying a firearm for security, I offer no judgment. Keep it dry, chamber empty until needed, muzzle always pointed at the ground or the water, and fingers off the trigger. A 12 gauge with birdshot is less likely to punch through house walls if you live in a neighborhood, but this is not advice. This is a simple statement of physics. If you are on a boat, a flare gun is more useful than a rifle right now. Clear signaling saves lives in flooded streets. Do not shoot at drones. That has happened twice in the valley, and it wasted time and scared volunteers. Water. Let us talk water because some of you are making yourselves sick without meaning to. If your tap water is cloudy or smells like river, do not drink it unless you boil it. Bring it to a rolling boil for 1 full minute. Then let it cool in a covered pot. If you cannot boil, use plain bleach that lists sodium hypochlorite between 5% and 6%. Add 8 drops to 1 gallon. Stir, let it sit for 30 minutes. It should have a faint smell of chlorine. If it smells strong, let it sit open to the air for a while. If it smells like nothing, add a couple more drops and wait again. Do not use scented bleach. Do not use swimming pool shock unless you know exactly what you are doing. If you have water filters made for camping, run the water through the filter and then disinfect with the drops. People argue about that order. In this kind of flood water, I want particles out first, then chemical disinfection. If you are melting ice from the freezer or catching rainwater off a roof that has not been cleaned in years, treat it as dirty until proven clean. I'm going to step away from bulletins and read a long note that arrived from a man in a metal shop off Netarts Highway. He signed with his first name only, Dean. I built a boat, if you can call it that. 2 canoes decked with 2x4s and a sheet of plywood and ratchet straps. It floats. I have life vests from our crabbing trips. My neighbor and I have made 5 runs to pull people out of single-story houses near the bay where the water came in from the marsh. We learned that you need a pole, not just paddles, because you can feel the old fence lines when you push and avoid snagging the skeg. We learned dogs will jump into a boat if you do not look at them and just keep your frame calm. We learned kids will act brave once they make it into the boat and the parents will collapse. We learned everyone wants to bring a box of photos and a bag of clothes, and that is okay if it is not heavy, and if there is not another person waiting on the porch behind them who needs the seat. We planned to keep going at first light. We burned 1 tank of gas for the small generator to charge tool batteries for neighbors cutting debris. I have a little left. If anyone has a small amount to trade, text my wife and she will set up a swap at the pullout by the old oyster shack. Thank you, Dean. I want to place a marker for the medical folks. The hospital in Tillamook is open. They are on generator, and they are busy. They have asked that anyone who can walk and who has minor injuries go to the urgent care tent set up in the parking lot rather than push into the emergency department. If you have a chronic condition and you need medication refilled, bring labels off your empty bottles and any dosage notes you have written down. They have had to rebuild records from scratch for people whose clinics are closed. If you are a nurse or paramedic who evacuated here from elsewhere, the hospital wants your hands. They will badge you temporarily. If you are a doctor, same, no drama. If you can put in stitches, start an IV, change dressings, or stand for 8 hours in triage, go. The Siletz clinic is running on wood heat and flashlight beams and is handling a lot of respiratory infections from mold and fuel fumes. If you can spare a box of masks, please do. Mold is already growing in houses that went wet on day 10. Do not run a generator inside a garage even with the door open. The carbon monoxide builds quietly. Put it outside, run an extension cord. Keep the exhaust facing away from windows. I want to talk about landslides because they are the real killers in this long slog. Water kills too, but slides have taken more lives in the last week. People walk onto a slope that was fine yesterday. They do not see the cracks forming under the duff. They put weight on the wrong line, and the whole face moves. These slides start as slurry and turn into moving cement with logs and boulders. You cannot run faster than the hill if you see fresh cracks, if you hear trees snapping up slope, if you see water coming out of the ground where it never came out before, if you smell new mud, if you hear a deep rumble with no engine behind it, leave the area. Do not stand on the road cut to film it. People are curious. Curiosity makes you a casualty. Highway 18 between Otis and Grand Ronde has multiple closures. Highway 20 from Newport to Corvallis is open and then closed, and then open again, mostly because crews are doing a brave and exhausting ballet between slides. Highway 26 over the Coast Range is an on-again, off-again reality that eats hours if you bet wrong. I-84 in the Gorge is a coin toss each morning until the Oregon Department of Transportation says otherwise. The service roads on the valley side are as fragile as wet cake. If you live under a scarred slope, sleep with your keys, your boots, and a flashlight at the foot of your bed. Put your gear bag by the door. Park facing out. My wife Dana and our son go with a neighbor to a house on the hill at night. Yes, I am saying that out loud because people keep asking if my family is safe. They are. They are eating a lot of canned soup and biscuits made with powdered milk. Our son is 12. He misses school, he does homework by lantern light, and asks if baseball is going to happen in spring. I tell him yes, because planning for spring makes us act like people who expect to see spring. Dana has a list of houses to check each day. She puts on waders and a bright jacket and walks with the neighbor's cattle dog, and they knock on doors and leave notes. She came here last night, stacked boxes on a table, and told me to put the microphones on top in case the water comes up again. Then she took our only towel that is still soft and left it on the chair. Some of you know that feeling. The one soft towel feels like more than it is. Humanity, in a rectangle of cotton. I should not get sentimental, but it is important to show what this looks like. We lost the staff one by one, and the building lost rooms one by one. The big studio downstairs took on water during the second flood crest. The equipment up high is fine. The lower cabinets are dead. The phone closet is on blocks now because the carpet holds water and will not dry. The printer prints on paper that curls as it dries. We put the diesel cans on an old bakery cart so we can push them on concrete without dragging. The office fish died on day 16. The coffee maker works when the generator works. People drop off food by leaving it in a plastic bin at the front door and banging once, so I know to grab it before the raccoons figure out where it is. This morning the bin had 2 loaves of bread and a dozen eggs wrapped in paper towels. There was a note that said, "From Emma, who has enough, to Mark, who has work." That is going on the wall when we are done with this mess. Let me run through a quick safety checklist for those doing boat work in flooded streets, because I have read too many stories now of near misses. Wear a personal flotation device, whether you can swim or not. Wear it even if you are 2 feet from shore. Carry a throw bag with a floating rope. Keep a knife on your person, ideally on your life vest, so you can cut ropes if you get tangled. Bring a long pole to feel for obstacles. Avoid fast water that is moving between buildings. That is where it accelerates and where it can pin a boat against a corner. Never run a motor near a person in the water. The propeller will cut them. Approach people slowly from down current. Shut the motor off well before contact. Hand them the pole and have them draw the boat toward themselves. Keep your weight centered. If you have to choose between a bag and a person when the boat starts to tip, choose the person. Bags can be recovered later. People cannot. For the farmers, we have a note from Oregon State University Extension about livestock on flooded land. Cows standing in water for long periods develop hoof problems fast. If you can get them to a dry knoll, do it. If you cannot, build a pallet platform and herd them onto it and rotate them off to rest. I know how that sounds. People are going to laugh at the image until they try it and realize it keeps a cow from going lame. Fence lines underwater conduct electricity awkwardly. If you are using a solar fence charger, get it off the post and onto a bucket or a board to keep it dry. If you have to cut a fence to move animals, leave a sign for your neighbors so they do not wonder where their boundaries went. I am getting notes from the valley that crime has ticked up in dry districts. People take advantage when streetlights go out and stores are closed. Here, in small towns where everyone knows everyone, it has been quieter, but not silent. There was a theft at the fuel co-op 2 nights ago. The board president called in and asked me to say this. They keep the pump locked at night, but if you need fuel for a medical reason, leave a note with your name and address in the metal drop box on the door, and they will try to reach you. Do not break in. You will set off the alarm and bring a deputy who has better things to do than aim a flashlight at your face and write a report that goes nowhere because the court is closed. Some folks are keeping watch on their streets with porch lights and teams of 2 walking loops. If you do that, carry a flashlight and nothing that will be mistaken for a weapon. The sheriff knows the difference between a mag light and a rifle, but dark is dark and people are tired. Identify yourself before you step out of shadow. I have a stack of kids' notes that came in a grocery bag from the community shelter. I'm going to read one because we do not get many chances to hear from kids in these things, and they are living it too. My name is Grace, age 9. We are at the high school gym with my mom. There is a dog that snores. We did laundry in a bucket and my socks keep folding weird. My friend Maddie's house has water in it, and we took my Legos and a pillowcase to the gym. Can we have a birthday party for everyone who had one in the rain? Grace, yes. Someone set up a table in the corner of the gym with a paper sign and candles stuck in muffins last weekend. It looked like a party. We can do it again this weekend. If someone has balloons, bring them. If someone has markers, write names on a big sheet so no one is left out. If someone has a guitar that still holds tune in this humidity, play it. One more adult note from out east because it shows how the story looks beyond our county. Hood River sent a message through the relay. They are dealing with a mix of flood and slide. The orchards are soaked. Crews are clearing rockfall. The town has power in spots and none in others. A man named Eric writes, "We set up a charging station in the hotel lobby because the generator there still runs. We asked people to bring one device and a cable and to label it with tape. We set a 10-minute timer for each device. No one argues because everyone gets it. The coffee shop across the street gives away coffee from noon to 2. The owner said if you can pay, put money in the jar. People put more in the jar than the coffee costs. People are better than the worst headlines." Thank you, Eric. That helps. Back to the coast. The tide table matters in a flood. High tide backs river water up into town. Low tide lets it drain. If you plan to move supplies by small boat under bridges, check tide times and clearance. A pickup canopy strapped to a trailer floats. It can work as a dry cover. Tie it down with more than you think you need. Things that float as a unit keep floating until they catch on something. I watched an empty hot tub float past the lumberyard the other day, and then hold fast when the suction formed on the downstream side of a sign pole. It sounded like a breath through a reed, and then it stopped, crooked and stupid in the street. We tried to push it free. It would not go. We left it, and it is still there with a blue tarp draped over it like a big hat. That is the month, in a snapshot. Nothing where it belongs and no time to worry about it. This building is on a shallow rise and still went wet twice. The first time the water came through the back hallway. We sandbagged, and it slowed to a seep. The second time, it crept through the floor because the ground outside was higher than the slab. We lost the carpet in the office. We pulled it up and dragged it out into the parking lot where it lies like a dead seal in the rain. The big studio is closed. The small room up here is dry. I moved the microphone to a table that we stacked on top of another table. The cords are curled up like snakes to keep them off the floor. If I have to, I will put everything on the shelf that runs along the window. If I have to go higher than that, I will stand on a chair and keep talking until it is silly. If the power goes, I will wait for the generator to catch again. And if the generator does not catch, I will read out a list of addresses and names through the battery backup until that too is quiet. I do not like saying that. I will say it anyway because pretending that we are not in a hard moment does not make it easier. All right, more notes. From Danielle in Neskowin. Our bridge to the golf course neighborhood is out. We move supplies by kids' plastic sleds tied to dog leashes, and we drag them through shallow sections. We need diapers, size 4, and baby wipes. We have plenty of food, and we can share rice and beans back. Please leave any deliveries at the community mailbox stand by the big cedar. We will pick up on the hour during daylight. From a crew boss in the timberlands south of here, we are building a new fire line that doubles as a footpath so people can walk out to a county road when the slides block the main access roads. It runs from the logging gate near mile marker 3 up to the ridgeline. Trail is flagged with orange tape every 200 feet. It is steep in sections and slick. Do not hike it in rubber boots. Wear real tread. No smoking in the timber. There are slash piles that will smolder if a spark settles. We will post a map at the trailhead when the rain lets up tomorrow morning. From a retired electrician in Astoria. If you have water up to your outlets, shut off the main breaker to your house before you touch anything. If the breaker panel is wet, do not touch it. Wait. If you have already turned the power off and the panel is dry, take photos of every circuit label so you know what belongs where. When the water drops and the utility reconnects, do not turn circuits on all at once. Start with lights. Let them run for an hour. Then plug in the fridge on a heavy extension cord. Do not turn on baseboard heaters until you are sure the wall is dry. Moisture in the box will arc and burn the insides without tripping a breaker. Electricity does not care about how tired you are. From Newburgh, pass through by relay. We built a neighborhood kitchen in a church parking lot with a flat-top grill and 2 big propane tanks. We serve breakfast and dinner. Breakfast is oatmeal and coffee. Dinner is rice, beans, and whatever meat someone donates. If you come, bring your own cup and bowl. If you do not have those, we will find you some. If you have a little propane to spare, bring it. We will repay you in hot meals. We post a board with job sign-ups. Work a shift if you want or just sit with people. We are keeping a list of houses that need cleanup crews when the rain slows. I have a personal note to read, and I am doing this because I want each of you who keeps a small engine running to feel seen. A man named Jared brought me a fuel filter that fit our borrowed generator. He found it hanging on a pegboard in his garage. His house is wet, and he is sleeping in his truck in the high school parking lot. He walked it here in the rain. I put it on and primed the line with a squeeze bulb off a lawnmower, and the generator caught on the 3rd pull. If you have ever listened to a motor catch when you were not sure it would, you know the sound I'm talking about. It is the sound of time. It gave me 2 more hours to be here, and those 2 hours gave us this connection. Thank you, Jared. More weather, because I know that is the backbone of all this. Mara texted 5 minutes ago. The band over the central coast is thickening. Rain rates will increase through afternoon into evening. That will push the small rivers up fast. If your yard has standing water now, it will have more by dark. The big rivers respond slower. Expect cresting after midnight. If you are in a floodplain near the Trask, the Wilson, or the Kilchis, plan on moving cars to higher ground now, not later. The wind will gust in the 20s and 30s. That is tree fall weather on top of saturated soil. Do not park under old firs. If you have a big tree with shallow roots by your house and you own a chainsaw and do not mind the mess, you can take the top weight off by limbing, but that is dangerous work and not worth a trip to the hospital if you are not used to it. Better to sleep in the back room and treat the front room like a risk zone for one more night. A small logistics update. The Port of Garibaldi is still functioning as a supply node. The pier is open to small boats when the tide cooperates. The crab fleet has tied up and is not running bars in this. The port manager, a woman named Elisa, is coordinating a bucket brigade from boats to trucks to get medical supplies inland. They did a transfer at first light today. It worked. If you are bringing goods by boat, text the port office ahead of time so they can have people ready. If you are in a truck, chain up if you see mud on the ramp, not after. The local volunteer firefighters have a small skid steer with forks, and they can lift pallets if the pallets are sound. If you are loading pallets in a garage to bring to the port, do not overload. Keep the weight centered. Use ratchet straps. If you do not have straps, use rope and knots you trust. Overhand knots will slip on wet nylon rope. Learn a trucker's hitch. If you do not know one, ask any old-timer on the dock. He will show you in 30 seconds. Here is a note from a hotel housekeeper in Lincoln City who is now coordinating rooms for evacuees. We have 20 rooms on the second and third floors that are dry. We are taking families with kids and elders first. We have a no pets rule in the handbook, but we toss that. Pets stay. If your dog is reactive, muzzle if you can. If you need a place and you can be civil, come. If you show up angry at the world and ready to fight, we will turn you away. We are all tense. We are not going to add brawls to the list. That is a good policy. If you show up somewhere, remember everyone there has been breathing this damp air and sleeping light. Tempers fray. Keep your voice down. Keep your hands to yourself. The Oregon State Police did a flyover during a break in the ceiling yesterday and mapped the biggest debris flows. One came down a ravine near Swissholm off the Siuslaw and blocked the river for a while. It let go later and sent a muddy surge downstream. If you live on a river, look for quick changes in color and floating debris that increases fast. That means a pulse is coming. Move up. If you fish, stay off the banks. This is not fishing weather. I say that as someone who loves to stand in a river with a fly rod and forget the day. This month is not that day. Leave the water to the ducks and the logs. People keep asking what day it is because the sameness of rain erases the calendar. It is day 30 since we started counting. That is the fact that sits at the center of everything else I have said. 30 days ago, we were shrugging and saying we have seen wet spells before. 25 days ago, we were joking about moss on our boots. 20 days ago, the laughter stopped, and we moved cars to high ground and texted neighbors. 15 days ago, the first round of slides took the highways, and the state sent crews. 10 days ago, the trucks stopped. 5 days ago, the state voices faded. 3 days ago, the county asked us to stop calling for non-emergencies. Today, we are a chain of people who can hear each other across water, across mud, across broken roads. It is not pretty, but it is enough. I am going to take a breath and drink water and then run quickly through a list of specific addresses and needs. If you hear your own, know that this is not a promise. It is a signal. Signals turn into action when the right person hears them and says, "Yes, I can do that." That is how we have been doing this since the trucks stopped and the conference rooms went quiet. Kilchis River Road near the one-lane bridge, 3 adults, and 1 dog on the second floor of the brown farmhouse with the tin roof. They can move on foot if someone brings a ladder to bridge the missing steps. They need blood pressure medication for 1 adult. Contact is a white bucket on the fence post with a note, because their phone died. South Prairie Road by the old mill site. Family of 5 needs diapers, size 3 and size 5, and dry firewood. They have a working wood stove and a dry wood shed, but the wood inside is green because they bought it late. If anyone has season rounds, please leave a stack by the gate with the red ribbon. Heb Park Boat Ramp east of Newburgh. Volunteer boaters are ferrying supplies across a deep channel to a set of houses stranded by a road collapse. They need more life vests and fuel for outboards, non-ethanol if possible. Drop at noon or at 4 in the afternoon. Eddyville on Highway 20, a stranded school bus with 10 passengers last seen yesterday afternoon is now secured. The driver, name withheld, walked out at first light and contacted a state trooper. Everyone on board is at a church hall and fed. They need blankets. Netarts. Small slip on Bayview has undermined 2 houses. The hillside is moving an inch an hour, measured by a line marked on a stake. If you live nearby, stay out of the backyard. Tension cracks are present. If the house goes, it will go without warning. All right. I'm going to bring this toward a close because I have a limited window before I need to shut the generator down to cool and refuel. There is one last message I want to read. It was written by hand on a page torn from a spiral notebook. It was folded into a Ziploc bag, wrapped in duct tape, and brought in by a man in a yellow rain jacket who did not give his name. He set it on the desk and left. I unwrapped it this morning. It is a community note from a group of families staying in a church hall south of here. I'm going to read it as written. We are wet and tired. We are not done. We have a list on a wall that says who needs what. We check names each morning. We can cook, carry, sweep, patch a roof with a tarp, clean a floor with bleach, and hold a child while a parent sleeps. We can fix a small engine, and we can mark a safe road with spray paint, and we can tell someone to go home when they show up angry. We will share coffee. We will share a shower when the water heats once a day. We have a book pile, and we will read aloud after dinner. We will not hoard. We will ask first. We will keep the knives on the counter and the guns in the closets. We will keep the generator outside. We will take turns sleeping near the door. We will check on the people we do not like as much as the people we love, because everyone deserves a knock. If you hear this, please do the same where you are. If you cannot, ask. There is no shame in asking. Signed, the people on the hill. The water moved up the legs of the table while I was talking, so I slid the chair back with my foot and put the diesel can on the shelf with the binders. The towel is catching the drip, but the towel will soak through when the band tightens over us. I taped a plastic sheet over the part of the console that sits lowest, and I wedged a mixing bowl under the worst seam in the ceiling. I would shut the door to keep the spray out, but the air inside this room turns stale if I do, and stale air makes people sloppy. I will keep the door cracked as long as I can, and I will keep my headlamp around my neck in case the generator coughs. Here is what matters right now. The tide is rising and the river smell is stronger than it was 20 minutes ago. That means anyone in low neighborhoods along the Trask, the Wilson, and the Kilchis needs to get cars moved to high ground before the street turns into one piece of water. If you are on Wilson, River Loop Road, the flat near Vaughn's place is already wet from fence post to fence post. The first line of mailboxes on the inside bend is at risk of floating. Do not wait for a stranger in a boat to come honk at your porch. Move. If you are out toward Alderbrook, use the East Ridge Line pullouts. If you have access to the high school lot and you can park without blocking the emergency lane, use it. Keep keys in the vehicle and a note with your name and a phone number in case someone needs to shuffle cars to make room for trucks. We just got 3 handwritten notes delivered in a sealed freezer bag. The runner said he came on foot along the railroad alignment because the street to the south has a sinkhole near the manhole cover by the corner. Note 1 is from Bay City, South End, near the old cannery buildings. Foundation checks show a 4-inch crack across the back wall of the storage addition. We have stacked sandbags, but the water level is up to the 3rd step and the door frame is racking. 4 adults inside, 1 elder with oxygen. We have 1 small concentrator and a backup tank at 1/3. We need either a portable generator for 4 hours to recharge the concentrator or transport for the elder. If anyone is running small marine generators at the Garibaldi Marina and can spare a unit and 10 feet of extension cord, that is the fastest fix. Do not send a big unit. A small one saves fuel and does the job. If you attempt transport, the route from the cannery to the school has 2 deep holes hidden by water on 7th. Hug the center line. Use a pole to probe before you commit a wheel. Note 2 is from Hebo, which is upstream and usually safe, but the South Fork has been chewing at the bank since day 20. We lost the footbridge behind our place. My wife slipped in and is bruised but walking. We can hear rocks rolling under the current. There is a propane tank lodged against a cedar. The valve looks intact, but the chain is under tension and the tree is moving. Do not stand near a hung propane tank. Secure a line from up current, not down current. And only if you are trained and have hard hats, gloves, and a plan. For most of you, the correct decision is to mark the area with flagging and keep people back. Call in the location to the fire district so a crew can tape it off. Note 3 is from Rockaway Beach. We are at the apartment over the bait shop. Stairs are damaged. 2 adults and 1 child. We are dry and we have food for 2 days, but we had a medical scare overnight. Our son had a seizure. It lasted under a minute. He is sleeping now. We do not have his anti-seizure meds because the pharmacy closed early the day we went to pick up. We need levetiracetam or whatever is available. If anyone across the county has spare medication and proper labeling, we can set up a controlled swap with the hospital pharmacy. Do not leave open bottles on doorsteps. We will coordinate a pickup with badge staff so dosing stays correct. Call the hospital front desk and leave the drug name, dose, and count. Put the bottle in a bag with a note and a phone number and write for pharmacy on the outside. I want to walk through a hard call I got just before I moved the mic. A logger named Ben drove to the rear alley in a lifted pickup and pounded on the door with his hat in his hand. He says the hill behind his sister's place on Miami Foley Road is moving. He sent me phone video. You can see tension cracks across the lawn and the back steps listing. He asked if he should jack the house. No. Do not try to save the foundation while the slope is moving. Pull the panel, kill the power, and get the people out with what they can carry in 5 minutes. Park the cars facing out. If you have livestock, open a gate to a higher paddock and hope they move. This is not a hero situation. This is a life situation. The house is only lumber and siding. Your sister is not. He nodded, thanked me, and rolled out slow to keep the wake down in the alley. That is how these decisions go, clear and quick. I have an update from Dr. Mara. She says the latest satellite pass shows the moisture band fattening along the central coast. Wind profiles have shifted 5 to 10 miles per hour higher at treetop height. That means limbs will come down, and anything shallow-rooted may lean. She is seeing rain rates that will overwhelm urban drains within minutes. She says the window for safe relocations in low areas is closing by late afternoon. If you plan to move, do it now. If you plan to shelter where you are, raise what matters another 6 inches and pre-stage your exit path. Move tools and totes onto chairs. Put wallets and IDs in zip bags and wear them. Tape your house number on the inside of the front window in large black marker so a boat crew can verify the address from the water. Let me talk fuel. Our generator is running on the last 8 gallons from the Port of Garibaldi loan, plus the 5 I saved in my garage. I'm switching to 2-hour blocks to stretch it. That means I will be on, then off, then on again. Between blocks, I will be in the hallway with a mop, pushing water away from the door. If you are running a generator at home, set a schedule with your neighbors so the block runs are staggered. You do not need 5 small engines rattling at the same time if 2 can carry the load and then hand off. Put a tag on each unit that lists the last oil change in plain language. Oil changed yesterday at noon. That is the kind of record that survives a wet month. Keep the exhaust facing away from doors. Use a chain and a padlock. People are desperate, and good people do dumb things when they are in the dark and cold. Hospital update. The urgent care tent in the lot is full. They have split the tent into a clean side and a wet side. The wet side handles minor injuries from debris, punctures, and falls. The clean side handles respiratory and chronic conditions. If you are arriving, remove wet clothing before you step into the clean side. Bring dry coverings if you can. If you cannot, the volunteers have a bin of blankets and old gowns. The emergency department is taking trauma and cardiac. If you have a rash from mold, do not flood the emergency department. Go to the tent. For mold cleanup at home, you need gloves, masks, a bucket, bleach, and ventilation. Mix 1 cup of bleach per 5 gallons of water. Wash hard surfaces with a sponge. Do not mix bleach with ammonia cleaners. That makes a gas that will put you on the ground. If the wallboard is soft and crumbles, it is done. Cut it out to above the water line and bag it. Leave studs exposed to dry when the weather breaks. A Coast Guard helicopter launched from Astoria during a break in the ceiling. The crew skimmed south and checked the bay. They reported multiple floating hazards in the channel, including a refrigerator, a picnic table, and a whole section of fence. If you are in a boat, assume anything might be in your path, including what used to be someone's porch. There are also deadheads in the bay, which are log sections just at or under the surface. You will not see them until you hit them. This is not sightseeing weather. Keep trips short and necessary. If you need to vent the pressure of being trapped, stand under an awning and count how long it takes a 20-gallon bucket to fill from the drip. Then go back inside and move another box off the floor. We are going to do a quick run of road reality. Highway 101 southbound from Garibaldi to Tillamook is passable with high water in one stretch and a detour around a stalled panel van. Northbound toward Rockaway has lake water across the south end of town at high tide. Highway 6 over the Coast Range is closed in at least 3 places and likely to close in more by nightfall. Highway 26 is toggling between 1 lane and closed, depending on debris. The local bypasses that people use when the highway fails are slick mud and ditches you cannot see until you are in them. If you are thinking of trying logging roads, stop. Crews are working in there and do not need extra headlights and tire tracks. I have a message from a rail worker in the Willamette Valley. The yard in Eugene is moving limited cars when the track is clear. They have diesel and crews, but mud has buried a siding near Harrisburg. If you hear a train, do not assume it is moving fast. It might be crawling to push debris off the rails. Do not try to race it at crossings that are underwater. People underestimate the current that builds across a roadbed. The water hides the flangeways. It is a bad mix. Now some human pieces, because those carry us forward. A teacher named Rosa is running a kids' table in the Tillamook High School gym at 4 in the afternoon each day. She reads from dog-eared paperbacks and lets kids draw on cardboard with fat markers. She said she will start a group for math work if she gets a box of pencils and a manual sharpener. If you have those, bring them. Keep donations basic. Pencils, paper, crayons, no glitter. It sticks to damp floors and never leaves. At 6 in the evening, a retired cook named Hal runs a line in the cafeteria with 2 camp stoves and a freight of canned goods. The menu is whatever is on the shelf and always hot. If you have salt, pepper, oil, or dried herbs, drop them off. You would be amazed how far a spoon of oregano goes when the air smells like wet plywood and diesel. A friend of mine from the county shop handed me a list of public works priorities. 1. Keep culverts clear at the inlets. 2. Keep debris out of the grates at the low end of town so the standing water can drop an inch between pulses. 3. Mark sinkholes with 4 cones, not 1. 4 cones make a square people do not step through. 1 cone is a target for a bored teenager. 4. Check pump stations every 6 hours. 5. Keep the staff fed. Tired crews wreck trucks. If you're the kind of person who organizes food, adopt a crew for a day. Bring sandwiches and coffee to the yard and hand them through the passenger window so the driver does not have to undo muddy gloves. I'm going to give you a tough one. It came in from a marine mechanic at the port. He says diesel sheen is on the water near the outer slips. That means something leaked. It could be a boat tank, a drum, or a generator. The port has absorbent boom, but not enough to ring the marina. He is asking for help in the form of old cotton rags, sawdust, and cereal boxes to make improvised absorbent barriers for the small fingers of water that push back under the docks. If you have rags, bring them in a bag and label the bag rags. If you have sawdust in a dry bin, bring a couple of buckets with lids. Keep the tops tight so it does not turn to paste. Oil spreads fast on calm water. Even a few improvised socks filled with rags and tied off can keep a slick from drifting under a walkway. I hear a change in the downspout. The water pitch dropped a step, which means the rate increased. People always think rain is one sound. It is not. It has edges that tell you when to move and when to wait. I am moving on while we still have power. There was a structural failure in a neighborhood off Netarts Bay Drive. A retaining wall collapsed behind 2 houses and pushed mud through the lower floors. No one is reported dead. The families made it out the back and up the stairs to a neighbor's porch. The fire district taped it. There is no safe way to dig that out today. Do not try. Mud packs around furniture and appliances and acts like concrete. Digging pulls more down. The right call is to wait until the slope stops creeping and then bring in a crew with shovels and plywood to spread weight. If you live near that, do not climb on those walls. The footing is compromised. I am repeating this because I know someone is listening who thinks work equals progress. Right now, restraint equals progress. Dana texted me. She is at the Hill house with our son and 2 neighbors. She says the dog found a leak by the back door because the dog would not stop licking one spot on the floor. She pulled the door threshold and found water tracking under the sill. She dried it and stuffed rope caulk in the gap, and then set a fan to push air out. She asked for duct tape and 10 wood screws. I told her where I keep them and that she should take the hand drill. If you are sealing your own door, do not use spray foam where it can trap water inside the frame. Use rope caulk or weather stripping. It is not pretty, but it peels later without tearing things apart. A boat captain in Newport sent a longer account through the volunteer radio chain. He was crossing Yaquina Bay to move a generator to the north side when he hit a field of debris and had to idle for 20 minutes to pick a line. He reported a chest freezer floating, doors wired shut. He left it. We all know why someone wires a freezer in a flood. If you find one caught at your dock, tie it off, Mark it with spray paint and call the port. Do not open it. The port will handle disposal when this eases. The captain added that the bridge piers have large wood pressed against them. He kept clear. That is a good decision. Hydraulics around those piers will push and pull a small boat in ways you cannot predict. I'm going to talk about sanitation because the calls into the nurses' line say we are heading toward outbreaks if we do not fix habits. If your toilet will not flush because the main line is backed, do not keep adding water and hope. Line a 5-gallon bucket with a heavy trash bag. Put a few inches of absorbent material in the bottom, sawdust, shredded paper, even clean dirt if that is what you have. After use, add more cover material, tie the bag tight, and store it in a sealed bin away from living space. Do not bury bags near creeks. When the city system catches up, there will be guidance on disposal. In shelters, keep hand washing stations stocked with soap and water. Hand sanitizer helps, but soap and water break the chain better in this humidity. Wipe common surfaces with a bleach solution twice a day. Keep pets out of food prep. These are basic steps that make a measurable difference. Another message. From Otter Rock. House is intact. Slope below us failed and took the deck. We can still exit through the front. We have 2 small kids and 1 elderly neighbor. We have food for a week. No power. We need a battery radio, candles, and headlamps. We can trade canned tuna and propane cylinders for small stoves. If anyone in Depot Bay or Newport can cross when the wind eases, that is a short run with a big payoff for a family with kids. If you have spare headlamps, include extra batteries and write the battery type on a piece of tape stuck to the strap. That saves a lot of cursing in the dark. A grocery update. The big store on Pacific Avenue reopened one aisle with dry goods that somehow stayed on pallets above the water line. The manager is limiting customers to 2 items of each kind to spread it out. He is accepting cash only because the card terminals hate generator power. If you need to trade, bring exact bills. The small market in Bay City switched to a shared table format. People leave what they can and take what they need. I stopped in for 10 minutes and saw a man drop a bag of rice and pick up a can of cat food with an apology to the owner. That is how it works. No speeches, just small exchanges that let pets eat and meals happen. There was a death in Nehalem yesterday. A man tried to walk through waist-deep water to reach a neighbor. He stepped into an unseen hole and went under. A kid on a second-story deck threw a rope and the neighbor pulled him out, but he did not make it. I am not giving names on air. The sheriff has them. I am giving the lesson. If you cannot see the surface you are walking on, do not walk. Use a boat. Use a board. Use a ladder laid flat and walked as a bridge. There are safe methods that do not require heroics. Use them. I want to talk about animals. Shelters are making space for pets. Do not abandon animals in houses. If you cannot take them, tie a bright cloth to your porch and write the word pet in the number. Volunteers with boats will check. If your dog is reactive, muzzle if you can, and put a leash on before the boat comes alongside. Cats go in carriers. If you do not have a carrier, a pillowcase tied off at the top is better than a wet cat that will bolt and drown. Put a slip of paper inside with your name and a phone number if you have one. A mechanic from a volunteer fire department sent tips for chainsaw safety and wet work. Wear chaps and a helmet with a face shield. Keep your footing. Do not cut above shoulder height. If the bar pinches, wedge. Do not yank. In flood cleanup, there is tension in weird places. A board that looks straight can spring when cut. Look for nails before you put a bar into construction wood. File a chain in the evening when you are dry and calm. A dull chain is a silent attack on your patience. That is his phrase, and he is right. I keep my file in a zip bag with a rag and a small bottle of oil. That bag is easy to find by feel when the power is down and the light is bad. Dana texted again. She got the door sealed and moved on to the kitchen sink. The drain is slow because the neighborhood line is half full. She filled a 5-gallon bucket and carried it out to the ditch to keep the water level in the sink below the rim. The neighbor put cinder blocks under the couch and lifted the bookshelves onto paint cans. She asked if she should pull the baseboards. I said no for now. If water comes over the floor, pull them and cut the drywall. Until then, leave the structure intact. She asked about turning the fridge off to save generator fuel. I said yes if the ambient temperature stays low. Keep the doors closed and use coolers outside the door for food you open often. Track temperature with a cheap thermometer you tape to the inside wall. Write the readings down morning and night. Numbers keep decisions honest. Another long one came in from a ranger out past Beaver. He and 2 volunteers cut a footpath around a slide that blocked the only road to a cluster of houses. They flagged it with orange tape. The path is steep and greasy but passable with packs. They set up a rope hand line in the worst section. If you use it, clip in. Do not tie the rope around your wrist. Use a carabiner on a loop of webbing if you have one. If you do not, use both hands and go slow. Move one person at a time through the narrow section. He says they will station someone at the bottom and the top during daylight to keep people spaced. Bring a pack with straps, not a tote. Totes throw you off balance. We just had a bang from the street. That was a dumpster rolling and hitting the curb. The outside lot is a shallow river now. I can see ripples in the light from the hallway. I'm going to keep my feet up and keep talking. There is a rumor that dam releases on the Willamette system will flood the valley. Here is what I can confirm. The Army Corps C manages releases to keep dams safe and rivers within banks when possible. In prolonged storms, releases increase to maintain room for new inflow. That can raise river levels downstream. Local offices issue bulletins when that happens. I have not seen a bulletin in the last 2 hours that changes the known crests. If someone sends me an official update, I will read it. Do not chase rumors that only exist on scraps of paper next to a camp stove. Stick to what you can see and what you can verify. I want to give this space to one more story that lays out the balance we keep. A man named Curtis runs a small diesel shop in town. He took a day off his own cleanup and went to the hospital lot to service the backup generators. The oil was old and the air filters were soaking up mist. He changed them, topped fuel, checked coolant, and replaced a belt that was fraying. He left a note on the panel with the date, time, and what he did. He also left a 5-gallon can next to the unit with a tag that said, "Use this if you get stuck. I will come back tomorrow with more." That 5 gallons could be the difference between a ventilator running and a ventilator stopping at 4 in the morning. People forget that small maintenance is a life support system. Curtis did not forget. Okay, we are going to do address calls, short and precise. If you hear one and can help, make a plan and keep it safe. Do not create a second rescue while you are trying to solve the first. 17th Street, Rockaway Beach, blue duplex with a busted stair rail. 2 adults, 1 child with seizures, need medication pickup organized through the hospital pharmacy. Contact is a white towel on the balcony rail. Miami Foley Road near mile marker 5, tan single story with a green roof. House on moving slope, occupants evacuating on foot. They need a ride to higher ground. Bring a truck with high clearance and a winch. Approach from the north. Do not drive onto the lawn. Bay City Cannery Row, storage addition with a cracked back wall. Oxygen-dependent elder inside. Needs small generator for 4 hours or transport by boat to the school. If you bring a generator, bring a long extension cord and keep the unit outdoors with the exhaust away from doors. Neskowin, north side, community mailbox by the Big Cedar. Diaper size 4 and baby wipes needed. Drop on the hour during daylight. Leave your name and an item list with the drop. Otter Rock, front approach only. 2 kids, 1 elder neighbor. Need headlamps, candles, and a battery radio. Can trade tuna cans and 1-pound propane cylinders. A man is knocking. Hold on, I am going to the door. I am back. It is Jared again, the small engine wizard. His truck stalled in the lot because water crept into the intake. He walked the fuel filter he promised for my neighbor's generator and a dry pair of gloves. He said the water is at the 3rd stripe on the pole by the dumpster, which is 1 stripe higher than an hour ago. He says the ditch on the north side is running bank full, and there is a refrigerator at the corner acting as a dam, which is moving water toward the alley. He is going to try to shove it with a pry bar and a rope off the bumper of a pickup. He has a second person with him. He promised to stay off the edge. If you are listening, Jared, tie the rope to the truck frame, not the hitch ball. Those balls shear and turn into projectiles. The ceiling drip picked up and found the edge of the plastic. The bowl is half full. I swapped in a bigger tub. If you hear a clatter, that is me moving binders onto the higher shelf. I have a stack of dry socks in a plastic tote at my feet. If you are wondering why I keep talking about socks, you have never worked a long day in wet shoes. Dry socks keep people moving. If you are delivering aid, throw a pack of socks in every load. Not fancy, just thick and dry. A volunteer in Lincoln City texted that a section of the Siletz highway lost half a lane. The remaining lane is undercut. Drivers are swinging wide and chewing the shoulder into soup. The fire district is setting barricades. If you see a barricade, do not move it. Barricades mean someone did the math on soil, weight, and risk. That math is better than your impatience. There is a line forming in my head of moments I want to hold on to, and I'm going to pin one here because it reminds me why we keep doing this. At the high school gym, Hal, the retired cook, left a note on the donation table. It said, "Leave one thing you love, but do not need." People set down jars of jam, a deck of cards, a pair of earrings, a paperback with a name inside. A kid left a toy truck with a broken wheel. Another kid taped the wheel back on with blue painter's tape and drove it across the floor. No speeches. Just a fix and a path forward for something that would have ended up in a box. We can run on that kind of fuel for a long time. All right, the port is asking for hands at first light tomorrow to move medical pallets. They will try another short window between swells. If you are healthy, rested, and have boots that keep your feet dry for at least an hour, show up at the west lot at 7 in the morning. The port crew will assign teams. Bring gloves. The pallets are heavy and the decking is slick. Use spotters. Lift together. This is warehouse work in rain jackets. It is not a place for freelancing or showing off. You will be asked to leave if you break the rhythm. No one will argue with you. They will just point at the gate. Respect the people who run the dock. They are holding more than freight right now. I have to say this before I forget. Stop using candles near curtains. People are falling asleep with open flames on kitchen counters and then waking up to scorched paint and smoke. Use battery lanterns if you can. If you only have candles, set them in metal pans with 2 inches of water around the base and keep them on the floor, away from papers and drapes. Extinguish them with a wet towel before you sleep. If you knock one, water knocks it down. Elevation is the enemy of stability in a shaking house. We also got a note from a pharmacist in Newburgh about medicine stability. If your refrigerator is off, most antibiotics in liquid form need cold. If they get warm, potency drops. If you have only pills and a stable cool room, those hold better. Store in a sealed bag with a desiccant if you have one. Write down doses and times on paper. Do not rely on your phone alarm. Batteries lie in weather like this. Use a watch or count meal times. A helper can check the list. There is a new noise from outside, a hum and a slap. That is the dumpster rolling back and forth on its wheels and knocking the curb. I am going to ignore it unless it comes to the door. The water is an inch deeper on the threshold. I am not exaggerating. The tape line I put on the jam shows it. I am moving the stack of dry printing paper to the top shelf. The printer does not like humidity, and it will like water even less. A fisherman out of Pacific City sent word that the dory fleet is tied down and stacked, but one boat broke a line and drifted across the lot until it lodged between 2 trucks. The crew used wedges and straps to keep it from grinding. If your boat is on a trailer, block the wheels and tie the bow to a ground anchor or a tree. Use more than one tie. Once a hull floats, even in shallow water, it will drift on small pushes that look harmless until a gust lines them up. Strip gear off open decks so nothing catches wind. I want to underline one more quiet risk. Carbon monoxide. We have had 3 near misses. People ran generators in garages with doors open. They passed out, and neighbors found them because a dog barked or a kid checked a friend. Put engines outside, downwind of doors, with exhaust pointing toward open air. If you are running a camp stove inside, stop. Use it outside under an awning or inside only with cross ventilation, and a carbon monoxide alarm that you know works. If you start feeling confused, headachy, or nauseous, get to fresh air immediately. Do not wait to be polite. A call for insulin went out an hour ago from the Siletz Tribal Community Center. A clinic in Corvallis responded through the volunteer chain. They have vials and syringes ready, but the normal route is blocked. A plan is forming that involves a boat from Depot Bay to a handoff on a pullout at Boiler Bay, then a run by a volunteer in a high-clearance truck to the community center. That is 3 legs and 2 handoffs. It can work if people stick to times. First handoff at 1,300 hours, second handoff at 1,400 hours. If you are not on those teams, do not crowd the pullouts. Let the chain work. I will confirm once it is done. I have a sheet from the sheriff. Curfew in town is set from 10 at night to 5 in the morning. This is not martial law. This is common sense. People with work, medical needs, or emergency response are exempt. Everyone else should stay put. Porch lights on if you have the power. If you run a street watch, wear reflective vests and carry flashlights. Identify yourself before you step out of shadow. The deputies are good men and women doing a job with little sleep. Make their job easier. There is a final story I want to tell before I shut down to refuel, and it matters because it shows the way forward when the ground under our feet is no longer the ground we knew. A woman named Annika runs the small library on Laurel. The library took water on day 10. She and 2 high schoolers pulled every children's book off the bottom, 3 shelves, and set fans to dry. Some were lost. Most survived. Yesterday, she moved a table to the dry corner and wrote, "Charging, books, quiet," on a scrap of cardboard. People came. She set a 10-minute timer for each phone on a power strip run from a small inverter battery she found in the back. She handed out books to read while the phones charged. She kept the room calm. In a month of noise, she built quiet with a table and a timer. That is a form of rescue, too. The bowl is full again. I am going to swap it and slide the towel. The parking lot outside is not a lot anymore. It is water with lines painted on a surface you cannot see. The dumpster just thumped the curb a second time. I am going to say the practical pieces and then shut down for a short cool and refuel. Move cars now. Raise what matters. Check on one neighbor and let one neighbor check on you. Keep the exits clear. Keep fuel outside. Keep tools dry if you can and labeled when you cannot. Keep anger small. Save it for the work. I will carry this mic to the highest table if I have to. If water comes past my shoes, I will step onto the chair. When the power clicks off, I will wait for the generator to cool, pour in 2 more gallons, pull the cord, and bring the room back up. While it is quiet, I will push a mop and keep the door from sticking. If the door sticks, I will wedge it. If the wedge floats, I will cut a new one from the pallet. If the pallet floats, I will move to the hallway step and keep talking from there. Clear steps. No drama I do not need. This is still the same place you know. The names are the same. The corners are the same. The people are the same. The water is the part that moved. We can match it step for step if we stay with the boring work and the plain habits that carry us. I will be back after I refuel and check the hall. Listen for the knock you promised a neighbor. Keep a pen and paper by the door for messages. Put dry socks in a bag where you can find them in the dark. The band is thick above us. The tide is coming up. Do the next thing in front of you and then the next. I am here. I am not moving unless the water forces it, and if it does, I will move uphill with the rest of you and keep reading names.